Good evening from the South Downs Planetarium outside Chichester. You probably know what a planetarium is. It's an artificial sky under a dome with a special projector. And it'll show you things the real sky doesn't often do. We can see the sky now and in the future. Early on this evening, Dr. Chris North was here with a school party.
Year 3 from St John's Catholic Primary School are taking a trip into space. Fortunately, they can do it all from the comfort of the South Downs Planetarium in Chichester. Over the past 10 years, it has entertained several hundred schools and 120,000 visitors. At the heart of the planetarium is this magnificent beast, the star projector. Its odd shape allows it to project 4,500 stars onto the surface of the dome, as well as the sun, moon and planets. The source of the light is dozens of tiny bulbs at the centre of each globe, and behind each lens is a star plate, a piece of metal with holes in exactly the right place to put the stars in just the right position on the sky. The planetarium is run entirely by volunteers, and Dr. John Mason is the resident lecturer.
Who wants to go on a journey into space today? Yes!
The 34-year-old projector requires constant loving attention to keep it going. But it still has a magical quality, which entrances audiences old and new. Time to switch off the lights. Some of the projected stars are coloured, and they also try to match the relative brilliance of the real stars. As a blanket of darkness enfolds us, John takes us on a journey to the planets and stars.
Now, I want you to look straight up. What do you think that is? You have to call out. I can't see you now. What is it? Moon. Pardon? Moon. That's better. The moon, yes. Now, tonight, by about 10 o'clock, that is what the moon will look like. But earlier on, before that, you may not see the moon at all. It's there, it's just it's going to be rather dark, because tonight there is going to be an eclipse of the moon.
I have really enjoyed the show, but what did the kids think of it? So what was it like being in the planetarium? Was that good?
Really good.
Have you been in a planetarium before?
No.
It was very dark, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So which one's your favourite planet?
My favourite's Pluto.
Why is that?
Because I like blue and I like getting quite cold.
It's very, very cold out near Pluto.
Mars.
Why Mars?
Because it's got like lots of rocks and stuff.
After seeing the wonderful show, do you think you're going to go out and see the stars more now?
Yes.
Looking forward to learning all about them?
Yes.
Back in the darkened dome, Patrick is joined by Paul Abel. The arrow in the dome points to the North Celestial Pole, around which our sky rotates as the Earth spins on its axis. Currently, the star Polaris is very close to this point, but over thousands of years, the celestial pole moves as the Earth's axis wobbles. Time for a bit of time travel.
Let's start our journey. So you can see now how the star Polaris is now shifted a long way away from the tip of the white arrow, coming up 5,000 years in the future, 7,000 AD. This is the bright star Deneb. This is the pattern of Cygnus the Swan. We go past Deneb here in about 8,000 years, so we're 10,000 AD. So we've now gone forwards in time, 13,000 years. And the bright star Vega in Lyra the Lyre is now our nearest bright North Pole star. And our winter night sky for 15,000 AD contains quite a few surprises. First of all, the so-called summer triangle of today is going to be the winter triangle, because with Vega being the North Pole star, these familiar three stars of Deneb, Vega and Altair are now circumpolar. They are there all the time. But a big surprise is the magnificent pattern of the Scorpion.
It just gives you a feel of how We don't have ownership of the skies forever. You know, all these wonderful constellations in the south are going to come north, and the people of that time are going to really have a splendid night sky.
Unfortunately, we may have gained in our view of the Scorpion and the Sagittarius and the star clouds at the centre of the galaxy and parts of the Southern Cross and Alpha and Beta Centauri, but we have lost the most famous winter constellation of the present time, Orion the Hunter.
Well, that's not a fair swap, John.
You don't think it's a fair swap?
No.
I don't really mind.
No.
I mean, Orion is wonderful and we love it to bits.
Can we go even further into the future?
Yes, we can. We can go forward another 13,000 years because it takes nearly 26,000 years for the North Celestial Pole to complete a circuit of the sky. If we go forward from 15,000 AD to 28,000 AD, we will return the North Celestial Pole to the star Polaris once again. And how the world will have changed by then.
Hopefully there will be people out there amongst some of these stars. And in which case, what will the constellations and stars look like on other planets?
Well, I'd love to be able to show you that, but sadly, that is beyond the scope of our rather elderly planetarium projector.
When we first came in, I was rather struck by it. It does look rather like Sputnik to me. It is a very impressive piece of kit. How common is that type of projector in planetaria today?
Well, it's one of a diminishing number of its kind in the world. I think there are only 8 of this particular model left.
And where were they?
Well, 7 of them are in the United States, and this is the only one that isn't.
What do you think their secret is?
The secret is that you are immersed inside what looks like the real night sky. Now, I would hate it to be that in the future that was the only night sky people could see.
Well, John, we've been looking at the sky in 28,000 AD. But last month, there was something really special, a total eclipse of the moon. And the Sky at Night team went down to the beach.
Well, I think I certainly drew the short straw with our inflatable solar system there, guys.
You chose it.
Now, we've brought our inflatable solar system down to the beach because we've got a lunar eclipse tonight. It's a few hours yet till sunset, which is when it occurs as seen from the UK, but we've come to the ideal location for viewing it. We've got a really nice, clear eastern and southeastern horizon, which this time is all important.
It is indeed, Chris. The moon will be totally eclipsed when it rises above the southeastern point on the horizon. But as it comes up and the sky is getting darker, if we're lucky and the clouds stay away, it should be a fantastic sight.
So here we are. Chris is the sun, I shall be the Earth, and you can be the moon. So we have the light from the sun hits the Earth and casts quite a long shadow into space, isn't it? It's a cone, isn't it?
It's a cone of shadow, which is about almost 900,000 miles long.
So let's get the shadow onto Pete's manly chest.
Okay.
There we are.
Now, when the moon lines up with the sun, roughly once a month, we actually get a full moon when the moon is on the opposite side of the Earth to the sun. But for the most part, the moon passes above or below that shadow.
Yep.
But tonight, that's not going to happen. It's actually going to pass into the shadow. That's a nice demonstration of it there.
Isn't it?
So the Earth actually has 2 components to its shadow. It's got a lighter outer part, which is called the penumbra, and a darker inner part called the umbra. And it's the umbra which we're really interested in.
Yeah.
As the moon moves towards the umbral shadow will actually pass across the moon's disk. So what we'll end up with to begin with is actually a partial eclipse of the moon. The moon will move further and further into the umbra. In fact, the umbra will completely cover the moon. And that gives us a total eclipse of the moon.
Right. And it's at this point that the moon will rise, isn't it? It will be in complete eclipse.
Just after the midpoint in the eclipse, that's when the moon should pop up above the horizon.
And now, if we have atmospheric effects coming into play, the moon should be quite a nice, dark, coppery colour, shouldn't it?
It should. I mean, the Earth has got an atmosphere, and that atmosphere looks like a thin ring as seen from the moon.
It does. If you were standing on the lunar surface, you would see the Earth and a ring of fire surrounding it.
That's right. I mean,
pretty.
there are 2 effects happening. First of all, the light from the sun is actually bent as it passes through the atmosphere, and that tends to infill the umbral shadow. But also, the bluish part of the light gets scattered away. So what you're left with is the reddish bit. So if you like, it's like a ring of sunsets and sunrises. That's a nice way to think of it.
It is. It's a quite poetic piece.
And that colour infills as well. So you end up with a reddish colour to the surface of the moon when it's totally in shadow.
Well, we've got a couple of hours left yet until the sun sets and the moon rises over the nice horizon. So while we wait for that to happen, we can talk about a few of the astronomical news stories from the last couple of months, starting with the sun.
Well, there's been an amazing event observed on the surface of the sun by the SDO, the Solar Dynamic Observatory. Looking at the sun, as it does all the time, a flare went off, an M-class flare, a medium power flare. Now that flare threw off a vast amount of material away from the sun's surface. But what's amazing about this is that this material was seen to flow away from the sun with the force of the release of energy, and then it stopped and lots of it actually fell back down to the surface of the sun.
They pose a real danger, do they?
They do to the Earth, because what will happen is if one happens to be pointing in our way, you get material thrown away from the sun and it can impinge on the Earth's magnetic field and cause all sorts of disruption to a lot of our electromagnetic systems.
OK, so leaving our solar system behind, we've had a supernova in that lovely spiral galaxy M51.
Yes, a supernova was discovered in the Whirlpool galaxy, and it's quite a brightish star. It's in one of the spiral arms. It's called SN 2011 DH.
Trips off the tongue.
It trips off the tongue. But it's quite easy to pick this up with amateur kit if you go out and have a look at it.
I did manage to capture it, but I have to confess it took me over half an hour to find M51, isn't that a tragic confession?
But what's amazing about it is that this is the third supernova to have occurred in M51 over the last 17 years.
Yeah, it's quite an active galaxy.
Well, finally coming right back into the solar system and onto Mars, and a slightly sadder story, the death of Spirit, the plucky Mars rover that's been travelling around the surface since 2004. Well, we've put together a little obituary from our journey with Spirit over the past 7 years. When the NASA Mars rover Spirit landed in 2004, its mission was just 3 months long. But Spirit exceeded that timetable and much more. The mobile geologist kept going for 6 years and travelled nearly 8 kilometres, outlasting many of the NASA team who managed the rovers day in, day out. Professor Steve Squires has been its constant companion, watching its every move from hundreds of millions of kilometres away. In 2005, he told Chris Lintott why they thought Spirit would only last 90 days.
I mean, the thing that we thought was going to kill them was dust on the solar arrays. Mars is a very dusty place. Dust is in the atmosphere, it settles out of the atmosphere, it coats everything. And as the dust built up, it went down and down and down and down and down.
Okay,
so it was getting close to the end. It really was getting close to the end. And then one glorious day, we got hit by this gust of wind. I mean, it was just a blast of wind, nothing more than that. Cleaned off the solar arrays. Spirit was producing more solar power than the day we landed.
The dust devils whipping along the desert were to become a regular feature and a lucky bonus. But Spirit's real adventure did not begin until it had trekked from its landing place in Gusev Crater to the faraway Columbia Hills. On arrival, it found evidence of water and went on to make the first ascent of an alien hill. The view from the top was spectacular. Times got tough when one of its wheels broke and Spirit had to drag it through the Martian dust. But that misfortune had an upside for scientists. The churned up soil revealed white deposits of pure silica, evidence that Mars once had hot springs or steam vents, possibly creating conditions favourable for life. But Spirit's days were numbered. It was further disabled by another wheel loss, and the team were unable to get Spirit into the ideal position for winter hibernation. In 2010, we caught up with Professor Steve Squires, who told us his feelings about the rover that just wouldn't give up.
I think the day when it suddenly hits us, we've gotten our last transmission from the vehicle. That's going to be, I think, pretty hard. It's had a good life, a good, long, productive life, and it's achieved so much more than any of us could ever have anticipated or hoped for, that if this is the end, it is clearly an honorable death.
Spirit never did awaken from the long Martian winter, and last month, NASA finally closed the chapter on this epic tale. But the exploration of Mars still goes on. Spirit's sister rover, Opportunity, is going strong on the other side of the planet, nearing its destination of Endeavour Crater. And later this year, NASA sends its latest Mars rover, Curiosity, to the Red Planet in search for signs of life. The rover is dead, but its spirit lives on. The time for the lunar eclipse is fast approaching, and astronomers from all over the UK have gathered on Selsey Beach, including Pete, Paul and Patrick.
Well, here we are at East Beach, Selsey, and the eclipse has just started. Unfortunately, we are totally clouded out from horizon to horizon.
Earlier on, there was a little break in the cloud, and we were all sort of hopeful, but as you say, it's thick wall-to-wall cloud now.
Well, the moon should be well above the horizon now, and there's nothing there. The clouds have just got in the way, and we can't see anything at all. There are some gaps, so fingers still crossed.
The gaps in the cloud are stubbornly refusing to arrive, but astronomers elsewhere are having better luck. The first images look like we may have a rather dark eclipse.
You know, Pete, I was expecting it to be a rather dark eclipse because of all the volcanic activity in Chile. And of course, with those, you don't get really lovely colours.
Well, it is reported from other locations where it has been clear that it is really deep red. In Europe, they're actually getting quite a good view of it at the moment. The moon rose a lot earlier for them, and there's breaks in the cloud, and they've got a beautiful blood-red moon hanging there in the night sky.
A blood-red lunar eclipse really is a wonderful sight. One we are just not going to get tonight, much to our frustration. We were just about to give up hope when a tantalising gap appeared in the clouds. Tom Kerrs, Pete and I got a view of the last stages of the lunar eclipse.
It's red. It's got a reddish hint to it.
It could be a bit of reddish cloud, sunset-lit cloud.
But the other issue is that the moon will be bright. The bit which is being uncovered will be really bright. So that light could be reflected off some of the cloud down there. I think what we're going to have to do is be vigilant, keep watching that area and see if we can see it.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we go. Yeah, it's nice and prominent now. Can you see it? You want the laser again?
Yeah, no, there's definitely something there. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. There's something there.
We're seeing the eastern limb.
No, that's definitely on that photo. That's so sharp.
Yeah, photo is
not a bit of cloud.
Almost in focus as well. That's scary, isn't it?
We're actually getting the benefit now, the fact that it's actually come into the partial phase, because when it was totally eclipsed, because there's so much cloud down there, it was too dim to actually be seen through the cloud.
Well, chaps, we did manage to catch a fleeting glimpse, just as we thought it was over.
Yeah, we'd all but given up hope.
We've had some eclipses pictures around from the rest of the country. Apparently it is quite a dark red one, isn't it?
Yes, it's, possibly all the volcanic ash and so on that's made it dark red, which is, it looks a lovely colour, certainly from what we've seen.
It's not helping, though.
No?
Our Flickr site has many more lunar eclipse images for you to look at. You can find it by going to our website, bbc.co.uk/Sky at Night. This was taken by Amariza Kamkar from Iran, with the lunar eclipse moon nestled in the Milky Way. Or this one by Frank Ryan, showing the lunar eclipse over Barcelona. It's also newsletter time. You can download our latest newsletter from our webpage, or write to newsletter 122, The Sky at Night, BBC Birmingham, the mailbox, B1 1RF.
Well, sadly, we didn't see it, but you can't win them all, and better luck next time. Now, when I come back next month, we'll be looking into the asteroid belt and talking about Dawn on Vesta. We've got very good pictures already, and more to come. So until then, from a totally cloudy Selsey.
Yes.
That's good night.
When it comes to the universe, he knows almost as much as Sir Patrick Moore. James May reveals things you need to know, available on the BBC iPlayer. Next, with something for everyone, a new shop is about to open, and its owner is a real devil in Needful Things.